So here we're going from single whip. And if we're doing the normal form, we come forward, turn slightly to the right, like holding a big ball. And the Chen Man Ching version, just step across, the hands float in. So the heels are in line or just past in line. So that's raise hands. It's very simple. Raise hands. Compared to single whip, there's almost nothing in it. It's just very small movement. Hold the big ball, step across, and bring the hands in. So you've really got just two movements, 1, 2. One is open, 2 is close and step across. If we were to do a simple mirror form exercise, you can go from there, just step in like a 90-degree step. So I might open up and then step. That just gives me a chance to do it on both sides. So the first, taking out the single whip, maybe you've got the big ball and then raise hands. Then if I come forward, I could just go holding the big ball and then raise hands. Stepping across. The step is not exactly the same from single whip, but similar. So it's just a left and right exercise. So you've got hold the big ball, close the hands, come forward just to make a loop. Then you've got the big ball in this angle, 90 degrees. So it's a simple form, but it's not necessarily easy to do it well. And like most of the mirror forms, it kind of helps you teach yourself on both sides. So you can try and figure out in your head, what am I doing? How do I map that out on the other side? You could even sort of put in the single whip arms, so it could be like this. So put in the kind of single whip arms, and then the stance is not exactly the same. Or I could step out and do single whip, like a mirror version. Step back into single whip. If you can figure that out, I'll do that again. So I'll start from single whip, hold the big ball, raise hands. From here, I'll step out like a 90-degree step and do another single whip, like a mirror version. Then hold the big ball, raise hands. From here, I'll just step out like I'm going into single whip. And it's just to create a loop. It's not anything special about that form. So it's a loop of figuring out the mechanics of the movement. And usually if you can get it on the mirror side, the normal side becomes a lot clearer. It's a bit of a brain teaser. So just looking at raised hands as a standing posture. There's really only two positions, is here and here. So you've got this position and then that. When I was doing a bit of Wu style Tai Chi, that first movement is a posture, like a separate posture they do. It's kind of like a slanted flying thing, or can't remember the name of it exactly. I think it's something like that. But here is included in raised hands, this point here. And within the Chen Manching lineage, that position was recommended as practiced to stand on one leg for, Chen Manching said, 3 to 5 minutes. So that's one of the recommended postures, either that or play guitar, just for a single leg position. So it's one of the popular postures for standing, out with the form practice. So you can do that as a separate practice, just standing and raise hands or play guitar. For like set a timer for a minute to start with. So the stepping is really quite simple in the Chen Manching form. So you come forward on the ball of the foot and then step the heel across. So it's just this 1, 2, 100, 0. Again, if I was to do that as a sort of mirror form, I could come from there into the bow stance again and go to here, then 100, 0. And step back into the original side. So you've got that, this position, and then that. So open, then close. Then if I step into the bow stance on this side, you open out and then close in. Roughly heels in line or just past, so the foot would slide past. Minimal from single whip. You've got a big ball and then this position. So we're here. So really it's just like that, then that. This hand's coming towards the elbow, but it doesn't reach. The other hand's roughly maybe throat height. Fingers pointing forwards. And in the regular form, it's the right hand that's in front. So make the big ball and then close it. And then just check back to the actual form, how you do that. So if you watch Chen Man Cheng, I think his hands are almost horizontal to the ground. So although it's called raise hands, the hands aren't raised. Same as play guitar, it's basically the same. The application of that is like an elbow lock. So you've got the arm in between your hands, elbow and wrist. So again, you could just play with it on left and right sides, just feeling the movement. It's a bit like opening the ball, closing the ball. So kind of like that type of Qigong movement, but one hand in front. So you can do that as a little sort of Qigong exercise. And then the more you get that feeling in the arms, you can feel that in the form. The swimming on land type feeling. From this side. Got the ball and then the closed position. So with the hands, you might want to go from the beginning and just map out the form with the hands without doing the steps. So you've got ward off left, hold the ball, ward off right, roll back, press, push or press down, then push out. Then single whip, the arms extend, turn to the left, turn to the right, hold the ball, send out the hook. This hand comes across and turns out. Then you've got big ball and then raise hands, right hand in front. From preparation, the hands are just touching the legs into Wuji, seeing if you can map out the whole sequence. You can turn the body a little bit just to get some movement through the body. You might have some rising up and sinking feeling. So it's good just to get your brain thinking of the hands. From here, again, shoulder strike's a really simple movement. Hands come down, sit and step out, sit into the center, the left hand comes up, palm down at the elbow, and then slight turning at the end. So that's really the posture. So it goes from here, hands come down, leg comes back, sit down, step out, sit into the center, this hand comes up, and slight turn as you release into 70-30. So raise hands, hands come down, step out, sit into the center, float up the left hand, and then release into 70-30. So shoulder strike is really like the whole body, engaging the legs and the arm and the body. So it's like Chen Manching's thing of the dreamy had no arms. And in the practices we've been doing recently, it's like getting into the center and releasing. So that's really shoulder strike on its own. So it doesn't really have an arm movement. Very minimal. So the legs, body, and the application of shoulder strike is to hit with the body, so not hit with the arms. So again, the basic movement from raise hands, step across, hands come down, step back, sink and step out, set, center, find the center, left hand comes up, and turn at the end slightly 70-30. Make sure you're not twisting, you're still through the center of both feet and still standing upright. Want to try the mirror form, you could create a loop. So it might be from single whip, or it could be just from raise hands. So here I could go into raise hands and try and figure out the mirror version. So sit down, step out, center, hand floats up, release. So that gives me a 90-degree loop. Then from here, I'll come back just to raise hands, the regular side. Then here, raise hands, mirror side. The regular side. And the mirror side. It's like I'm coming into white crane spread wings, but I'll go into raise hands instead. Yeah, like I'm going to come into white crane, but I'll just come into raise hands. Okay, so that these loops are probably less familiar than, say, the beginning. We've done this quite a lot. But when you have the loop of, say, raise hand, shoulder strike, left and right, you might find it feels quite strange. So it might be one that's worth practicing until it feels natural. Because the ward off left and right and roll back and all that, it should feel quite familiar. This will feel a bit unfamiliar. So in the loops, you can take any chunk. So it could be, I go from single whip, raise hands, shoulder strike, And then maybe I'll do a mirror single whip. Raise hands. Shoulder strike. Or I might even go from the push through the single whip. So then I'm in the mirror version of the push somehow. Even if it feels very sloppy, it's just a good mental exercise. Another shorter loop might be just a shoulder strike, left and right. So shoulder strike, and then another shoulder strike. Just making that the loop. So from raise hands, you got maybe 3 positions within it. So the first one is just that. Then a sit down and step out. So it's 100-0. Then you're sitting into the center and this hand's coming up and sort of releasing and turning slightly to finish. Different styles do it differently. So some will just stay in the same line or turn this way. So that will turn at the end. So that's just the standing posture points. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 is the hands and leg come back. 2 is single weighted step. 3 is 50-50 loading in the walk. And then 4 is releasing 70-30. This is 1. This is 2, 3, 4. One, whereas raise hands only had 2 positions. It's like 1, 2, at least in the Chen Man Ching version. Whereas shoulder strike has 1, 2, 3, 4 that you can look at. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. And you can try that left and right sides. 1, 2, 3. For me, that feels difficult on the left side. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The stepping, the footwork is really simple. It's just foot slides back, foot steps out, and the weight shifts. And really the footwork and the posture is the same thing because there's not really any hands. So it's from the heel you slide back, sink and step out, 90-degree angle, center, and then 70-30. The only thing is to get the length of the step, you try to sit down as deep as you can for the single weighted step, so you've got a long enough stance. With the hand form, almost nothing happening, just very little. So you've gone from raise hands, the hands come down, so they're kind of over the left thigh. This hand stays here, sort of rounded like pung, facing that way. And then the left hand just comes up, palm down at the elbow. Hand horizontal to the ground. So that's the final position. And you've got the chi to the fingertips, so it's not collapsed. It's engaged. So that's from raise hands, hands come down, shoulder strike. And then just trying that, putting that back together. So as I would come to 50-50, the back hand starts to come up and release for the end posture. Raise hands. It is a bit like this flapping movement. So you've got opening and closing the arms, which does look a bit like each one as well, that kind of movement. But here I'm thinking of that one hand in front. So yeah, you can do that kind of walking around, or you can think of that position, that stepping position. It's a bit like you're trapping something under the foot. So you could just practice that as a walking exercise. So I'm kind of walking in the semi-cat stance thing here. Maybe turn that foot to here. It's just walking forwards with raised hands. Opening and closing. Or like we were doing earlier, you've got the 90-degree version. Like the form. That bit, as I said, in the Wu style, this is more of a clear application. What they do is kind of strike with the back. So between single whip and their version of raise hands. So it's maybe harder to see that, but it's basically this part, the holding the ball part, which would apply in push hands. So when somebody, I did it with Petra actually the other week, when you pulled my arm, so that's that bit, and strike with the back. So somebody's pulling you this way, that's like the turn here. So if I do it with the wall, it's kind of like strike with the back. So you could practice that as an idea. So say you were doing a circle or something, you go here. It's not really Chen Manqing's form, but it's that movement there, here. It's a kind of shoulder strike as well. So that would be an application of shoulder strike as well, that bit, to hit with the back. So doing that freestyle is kind of tricky, but you can just get the feeling of the back. It's almost a bit like in Bagua, you've got the bear posture as well. It's kind of like that shape, that feeling. So just playing with that freestyle. So that's kind of shoulder strike. Another way you could work with shoulder strike as a free practice would be just kind of stepping like that. So you're kind of doing this kind of step without any arms. So you see that in push hands quite a bit if somebody's just stepping in like a shoulder strike. So when we do the Bagua stuff, like the step forward with hand techniques, it's the same thing, but without any hand techniques, just with the body moving. And trying to keep the body upright. And move from the leg. The whole body. From the legs. So it's when we're actually doing hand techniques, you're not just doing it from your hands, you've got that feeling of it's the body moving. And with the shoulder idea, it's the back or the shoulder that's moving. So yeah, and different styles of Tai Chi have different versions of what they call Dalu, which means rollback or big rollback. In the Chen Man Ching version, there is shoulder strike in this form. You would do it with a partner. So it's shoulder strike, then a kind of rollback. I'm not going to try and teach you that on Zoom because it's too many changes, but that's another kind of free form application of shoulder strike would be to look at it in Dalu. There's the shoulder strike. And this is like neutralizing the shoulder. So in Dalu, you've potentially got the elbow and the shoulder as the techniques. So there's kind of a strike with the hand, then with the elbow, then with the shoulder. And then you defend from those three. So it's hand, elbow, shoulder. You defend against the hand, defend against the elbow, and then against the shoulder. You're moving in this cross pattern. We'll do that as a partner exercise. But it's a very short form, but it's quite interesting. So here's raise hands. shoulder strike. Then we're into white crane spreads wings, but we'll leave that till next time. But hopefully when you get to the part that we've just worked on, so raise hand and shoulder strike, it'll feel a little bit clearer. You're a bit clearer about each part of the movement, which is the point of the single form practice.